Have you ever met the connector? Well, he ponders, he helps, he creates, he writes, he speaks. He basically connects people and brings them together. I speak about Paul Solano of PS and All Marketing Group. At psandallmarketinggroup.com, you will receive an assembled group of Paul's contacts and connections that cross into many sectors of life. Please contact Paul Solano at 617-240-4130 or psandallmarketinggroup@gmail.com if you are in the market for a wide array of services. Again, please contact the connector, Paul Solano, at 617-240-4130 or psandallmarketinggroup@gmail.com with any questions. And now, here's Paul Solano, the host of Paul Ponders.
Welcome to Hashtag Paul Ponders. I've really enjoyed bringing you fun, informed, intriguing, and pondering podcasts. Many thanks to Hashtag Pod Pro Entertainment. Today's collaborating sponsor, Scott Albertson of Hashtag Project142.org, Riverworks Credit Union, NMLS number 410564, and Remax Renaissance Realty of Reading. Thanks for listening, rating, reviewing, and subscribing. Let Hashtag Paul Ponders begin. Greetings, everyone. Hope everyone is doing well today. Welcome to another episode of Paul Ponders. Today, we're very fortunate to have as our guest Mr. Scott Whitley of Wicked Bites. Scott, welcome.
Thanks for having me today, Paul.
Great to have you on. Now, Scott, you're just a popular host of the Wicked Bites TV program and radio program. If you could please tell our listeners how you got started on radio.
Well, radio goes back, I guess it's been in my genes for all these many years because I followed my father's footsteps, who started off in radio so many years ago. He worked at WNBC in New York. He's famous for hiring folks like Wolfman Jack and Don Imus. And eventually he came to Boston because my mother grew up here in the Lawrence area. And he came back to Boston to work for a radio station up here. And when I was in, I guess I officially got into the business, even though I was kind of came in every once in a while and watched him work and watched the radio start when he was doing it back in the early 80s, 1980s. And it was in the summertime. And at that time, my dad was working for a radio station called WBZ in Boston, which is still very popular today.
Indeed.
And he always had this dream of owning his own radio station, and he did that. And he bought a station in Metro West area that he made all talk. And during the summertime, when I was in high school, I used to go up there and work. And that's how I got into radio. And from there, I went into WEI in Boston. I worked there for about a decade doing news and then sports later on. So a lot of time I spent in my career with radio. And of course, my dad spent a huge portion of his life working in radio at the highest levels, from morning drive hosts, you name it, right on up.
That's fabulous. And your dad, of course, Pat Whitley, is just a Boston radio legend, and he still works with you over with the Wicked Bites brand.
Yep. From time to time, he will come in. He's been pretty much retired for the last several years, but he always loves doing the voiceovers for the television show. So we have him in from time to time to do that and still be part of the program. Because let's face it, he's a legend in the industry. He started the food talk around the nation. When he started doing the radio show, he was doing political talk way back in the 70s. And back then it was brand new to the area. There were no cell phones, no car phones. You couldn't call in. It was much more, it was very difficult to get phone calls. And it was a 4th of July weekend. It was on that Friday. It was a hot and humid day, as he tells the story. And he just couldn't get phone calls, and he did everything. He called the governor names. He started reading the movie listings in the newspaper. And eventually, about an hour later, he says, all right, whatever you want to talk about, just call in. And a lady called in. She started talking about Szechuan food, which was new to the area at that time, and fried ice cream, which was unheard of. And that restaurant, I called my dad, and at that time called the management over the radio station, and they said, "Look, come on in. I would love to be the first sponsor of that program, but I got good and bad news." He says, "I'll pay you in advance to be the sponsor, but I'm about to file for bankruptcy protection." That's how the restaurant show got started back almost 50 years ago, and that's how Whaley's got started.
Wow.
So, and that grew to 13 locations. Now he has 4 locations I believe, in Florida at this moment. But that's how it all started. And now I think it's the second longest continually running radio show in America other than the Grand Ole Opry.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that is fascinating. Congratulations on that.
Yeah.
So that's
It's tough to
incredible.
follow a legend, though, when he retired, though.
I bet. Now, how big is your staff and how many co-hosts do you have?
We have what I consider, we have about 4 co-hosts. I have myself, Lee, who's been with me since the entire run of the television show. And the television show's in its 14th season on NESN, the sports network. And we brought in Steve D'Amato, the Wicked Snacker, everybody knows him as, to bring in a little bit of comedy levity to the program. And he's done a fantastic job over the last couple of years. And Bianca has been with us probably for about 7 or 8 years. So we pretty much kept our entire staff over the 14-year run of the program, and it just got stronger and stronger. And we've had a lot of fun along the way, because I look at it as a couple of, I love food. I love going out to restaurants. I've probably been to a gazillion restaurants. And I always tell folks, and even when I'm doing the radio show, I'm not a food critic. I like what I like, and I'm sure you like what you like, Paul. And I don't care how they make these dishes. I would never want to be a food critic, because if I was having a bad day, that restaurant's never going to get a praise, right?
Mhm.
I let the people do it, but I like to show what makes that restaurant special, what makes it tick. And sometimes, and most of the time, I got to say, for me, it's not the food. The food is secondary. And I know you being in the restaurant business, you probably don't want to hear that. But for me, it's about, why am I going to go to this restaurant when there are 100 restaurants in the path of my driveway to that restaurant? What makes it special? Is the fact that it's set in an old building, historic building? Is that it? Or is the staff? Or do they do one particular dish that's unbelievable? And I always say, my job is really to get them in one time, and it's the restaurant's job through the food to get them to come back, and the service, time and time again.
Hmm. Very, very interesting. It's a very unique, very different philosophy, but that's why your brand is so successful and you've been able to really just nail it all these years for over 50 years.
Yeah, we just like to have fun. I mean, that's what it is. I mean, when you're dining out,
Mhm.
it's all about enjoyment. It's the entertainment business.
Mm.
Restaurateurs, when you run a restaurant, you're in the entertainment business, and that's what I'm in at the same time. I may like a certain dish, and you may hate that dish, but
Mhm.
but that's what makes it all exciting. So people could talk about what they like and dislike about places. We've always allowed on the radio show to praise and zing.
Mhm.
That my dad started that off a million years ago, to praise or zing. And that, I think, gives us a lot of credibility, because we could talk about a restaurant, and somebody could say, it's not all that it's cracked up to be. That's why, our advertisers who have been with us for decades, we really hand select them, because our name is attached to them. And I am so honored and blessed to have all the sponsors that we've had throughout these many, many decades.
Without a doubt. Now, is it safe to say that you have reviewed and you've been to restaurants in all 6 New England states?
Yeah, we have not been to Vermont, simply because of the time commitment, but we've been to Rhode Island, we've been to Maine. Southern New Hampshire is a really big area in for our dining area, and of course Massachusetts, since we're based in Massachusetts. We're always traveling. I've been up filming sometimes up in Portland, Maine. The next day I wake up and I'm in Rhode Island. So a lot of traveling at times when we're out there filming.
I see, I see. And would you ever think of going into, like, the New York area, Long Island area, other regions?
We talked about it. We talked about it in the past, of maybe branching this out, and not bringing it to, like, where I would show restaurants in New York here, but bring the type of program and open up different markets. Where I think an untapped market right now, and I've always thought about it, and of course it's one of my favorite spots, is Florida. There are so many restaurants. If you look just in the Tampa area and you go south down to Sarasota, there are so many restaurants, so many specialty restaurants, and it's not just the tourist restaurants, the beach restaurants. It has really, really developed as a great dining community. A lot of these cities, Sarasota is a fantastic city that has a lot of niche restaurants in there. I didn't realize how popular it was till about 10 years ago. I was doing the radio show and I was in Sarasota. And I was telling everybody, hey, if I sound a little bit different, I'm on Longboat Key, I'm overlooking the harbor, and I'm watching the manatees right now, and I started getting people commenting, because we do at the same time stream the show live up on Facebook, Wicked Bites TV on Facebook. People were saying, I'm watching the show. I'm about 10 miles north of you, right now. And they were giving me restaurant advice where to go in Sarasota. And now, since we're on WRKO in Boston, that's a big iHeart radio station. And iHeart has about 800 radio stations. They're the world's largest podcaster. And their app that they have, their iHeart app, is so widely used. People listen to us all over the country on smart speakers and on their computers, on smartphones. And it's really amazing now to see the evolution. We constantly get phone calls from Florida. That's not unusual. You got a lot of snowbirders down there.
That's fabulous. It's funny because I have some cousins who are down in the Tampa area, the Hudson Spring Hill area, and I have visited them, and I've gone down to Tarpon Springs, and I love Greek food. And I'll tell you, Tarpon Springs, I don't know if you've ever been down there, but it's just absolutely wonderful. And some very nice Greek restaurants are down there.
Yeah, I have not been down there, but there are such fantastic, beautiful restaurants through that whole stretch, right through that Clearwater area. Of course, downtown Tampa, Longboat Key has some unique spots as well. One thing I noticed, and this is one thing I get calls about all the time, you don't have a lot of Chinese restaurants. That's one thing that they're lacking. You see a lot of chain restaurants come out of Florida, and it's been that way for many, many years. Outback was one of the more famous chains to come out of there about 25 years ago. Probably because it's a little bit cheaper to start. The property, as far as leasing space to build a restaurant and develop a concept, is a lot cheaper down there. So they kind of perfect it before they start bringing it out. So you see a lot of restaurants moving up there, but now you're starting to see like the 110 Grills. They're opening up places down there under different brands. They have one out in Naples called, I think it's Oak and Iron. It just opened up about 2 months ago. And that's under the 110 Grill brand out there. So they're expanding to Florida, and a lot of I'll be surprised, and I think you're gonna be surprised too. We're gonna see a lot of the big name restaurants eventually open up places in Florida. Kelly's Roast Beef has been down in Sarasota for several years, and they've done really well in that location.
Wow. Maybe a Mel's Diner will in fact come up. A breakfast place will come up.
Yeah. I still think we need more diners here. When you go down to like New Jersey, there are so many diners. My wife grew up in New Jersey. And for her, she's like, yeah, we got great diners here, but it's nothing like New York and New Jersey when you got about 100-page menu. For me, it's too much to choose from because I always get the same thing, right?
Right.
But that's one thing. I love diner food, and I will go out to places. I was at the Dream Diner in Tingsboro just a couple of weeks ago, and I saw Mary Beth. She's one of the owners there. Her mother, who's about 75, works there every single day with a big smiling face, and it's just a comforting, warm atmosphere. And they also have the Owl Diner in Lowell, which is very historic, that they own. They own a couple of other diners as well, but I love them. I was at the South Street Diner over the winter time. I went to go see Nikki Glazer. She was at the Wang Center, and my kids got me the tickets, and they put us up at the W Hotel. And the next morning, we walked down, my wife and I, to go down to see the South Street Diner again. It was the first time my wife has been in there. We featured them on the television show probably a decade ago. But they have this one dessert, Paul. I don't even know if you call it dessert. It's pancakes, but it's a Boston cream pancake. So there's so much chocolate. There's ganache all over it. It's so good. I only ate about a quarter of it. But you got to get it right when you're there. And so many movies have been filmed there. It's a very historic spot.
Without a doubt. And, Saul Seidel is past Paul Ponder's guest, and it's always great. Scott, Saul is is a dear friend, and at one point in my career, I was his general manager.
Mm.
And I'll tell you, for a shift meal, I would sometimes have those Boston cream pancakes, and they were
Yes.
so good.
Yeah.
But the deep dish, speaking of desserts, the deep dish blueberry pie, the homemade blueberry pie with the vanilla ice cream on top, to die for.
Yeah. And how many places, especially nowadays, have a line at 2 a.m? They still
Seriously.
do at the South Street Diner.
Seriously, it's
Yeah.
unbelievable. It's unbelievable. And also Saul's grandmother's banana bread recipe was
Is
to die
excellent.
for.
Yep. Yep.
Absolutely. That's great. So, what is your favorite cuisine?
You
What do you
I
what do you
really
like?
don't have one. It's
Hmm.
almost like what I'm in the mood for. A couple years ago, I started getting into. I love pad thai.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of try to find the world's best pad thai. Years ago, we had a place in Haverhill that closed down, and the person there, his name was Kid. I don't know where he went to.
Mm-hmm.
The best pad thai I've ever had in my life. I've been trying to find it ever. I've never been able to find anything, to replace that. It's like you go to certain restaurants and you compare wherever, like the best prime rib. Well, I
Mm-hmm.
look at the Phoenician restaurant in Haverhill, right?
Mm-hmm.
Those folks go back to the Becheras when they owned Bishops and Lawrence.
Right.
Yeah, they used to work for the Becheras, and when the Becheras decided to retire, they asked if they could take the concept and their recipes out and open up their own place, and they did that, I think, 20 years ago. I can't believe how fast time has been going by. So that prime rib, they have the queen cut and the king cut, which is like 3 pounds. You can't finish it. And it comes with 2 sides. And I always get the Syrian bread and salad and their hand-cut French fries because I think they have the best French fries in the world. And that really goes back to my dad and mom. Because
Mm-hmm.
on a Saturday night when they were first dating and they were first married, they would go to Bishops and Lawrence, and that's
Yes.
what they would get. And today, I was at the Phoenician in Haverhill probably about 3 weeks ago, and I saw
Mm-hmm.
Bassam and the crew over there.
Mm.
They always say make it to dessert, and I never can. They have baked Alaska, and I happen to know
Mm.
they use Richardson's ice cream.
Aha.
Yeah,
Interesting.
yeah,
Interesting. Well, besides the Pearl Street Station fried ice cream, what is
yes.
your favorite dessert? Is it that baked Alaska?
That it is. I've only had it a couple times there because I could never get through. My favorite dessert is probably the fried ice cream. Because
Indeed.
there's nothing like the fried ice cream, and I think when Alan brought it to the restaurant, to the Pearl Street Station, he did it right, and it wasn't. It was the shock and awe. You know,
Hmm.
yeah, you could have a great fried ice cream. I mean, the first one I ever had was probably at Whaley's.
Right.
And I thought that was sensational. I couldn't figure out fried ice cream. What the heck is that, right?
Hmm.
And then to see what Alan does at the Pearl Street Station, it's the size of my head. Yeah, it's completely shareable for the entire table, but you don't want to share it. It's so good.
All right. Not at all, but it is a very shareable dessert. Now, in this whole, you've seen the shows, the industry evolve accordingly, but now we have AI.
Yeah.
What's the impact of AI right now in your world?
Well, believe it or not, it has been a real big impact for me. And I think as far as understanding what's going out there and creating stuff, whether you're writing scripts now,
Hmm.
I don't use AI exclusively to write stuff for the television show, but I use it to enhance it. So sometimes I'll
Mm.
write what I'm going to write and then I put it in, see if it has good ideas, and I go back and forth for a while. It actually takes a little bit longer, but
Hmm.
you get some really good stuff out of there. What we're seeing right now in my side of the industry is its ability to help with the speed of the editing television and video,
Hmm.
uh, how it's helping to color, how it's helping to fix audio. That's probably the biggest thing. I hate to say this, but I had one of my cameramen who forgot to turn on one of the microphones of a guest, and I was able to stick it into AI the other day, and you would never know. It fixed it.
Really?
And I was sitting there going, "Oh man, this is going to air in about 10 days. We're going to go have to go back and reshoot this interview, and it absolutely 100% fixed it. So
Wow.
there are a lot of things that it's able to do now, and what's on the horizon and what's here is it's going to be hard to tell what's real. We could change the shirts that we're wearing. It's gotten to that degree right now, and it's going to be really an amazing thing. But I look at it as it could help enhance and improve what we're doing,
Mm.
and speed up what we're doing, because editing takes a long time, a
Hmm.
real long time, and it really has sped up my day. Even like use a lot of music for the television show. And if I have a music bed that runs 3 minutes and I only want it 30 seconds, you could drag it to 30 seconds and the AI will do all the cuts for you seamlessly. And you can't tell now. It knows exactly how to do it instead of us, timing it out. I remember back years and years ago, I would have to edit on reel-to-reel tape,
Hmm.
with a razor and tape, and then when it finally evolved into the digital world and you could do it all digitally, it was so much quicker and so much easier, and so much better. You just got to embrace it and just go with it, because it's going to change a lot of what we do and what we see. And eventually, I think it's going to really help on hand selecting and finding places, and help us do the research of what makes these places so different and so unique.
I see. So, just for our listeners in Paul Ponder's land, you are on Facebook Live, and you're on the radio and on television. If you want to explain to our listeners where you are.
Yeah, we're on Facebook. We're at Wicked Bites TV on Facebook. That's where you could see. I broadcast the radio show on WRKO on Sunday mornings there, live from 10 to 12 noon. It's me in front of this microphone, just like you're seeing right now in the studio, with a whole bunch of phone calls. And I tagged the restaurants they had mentioned so people could go back and watch it. We do a lot of live streaming there. So when we're out filming for the television show, which is on Nest and the New England Sports Network, Saturday mornings at 8:30, Sunday nights at 10 p.m. I know they air it during the week, but I know those two times, they never change, right? We got those two prime times. And we put a lot of the features up there as well. We don't put the entire television show up there due to, contract reasons, but we put a lot of the segments of the television show up there that you can see. And then when we're out filming, we're always live, and we'll have, I don't know, 15, 30, 40,000 people can check out our live videos that we do when we're out there filming. So Wicked Bites TV is a great research to see the program. Wicked Bites TV on Instagram is another popular spot to see it as well. A lot of the features, a lot of the stuff that we're doing. And a lot of people, just like the radio show, when people call in and people write stuff on our Facebook page and stuff, they suggest places that we should check out, because the restaurant industry, it changes so fast. And to keep up on it and to find out what's hot and what's not, it's impossible. Years ago, the Mass Restaurant Association came to me and they asked me if I could write a book listing all the restaurants in Massachusetts. And I said, by the time we got it out, it would be just factually incomplete, because things change that fast. And I remember, I got this story. I don't want to name the restaurant because they're a dear friend of mine now. There was a restaurant in my hometown that I went to several times. I didn't like it. I just didn't like it. It's just nothing special. So I never really went back to it. And about 6 months later, somebody that worked with me says, "Hey, have you been to this restaurant?" I said, "Yeah." I wasn't fan of it.
Sure.
And they said, "I love it." And he goes, "Do you know it's under new management, new ownership? They got a new chef." And no idea. No idea. That's how fast things change. And
Right.
it made it into a sensational restaurant. They've been around for about 15 years now. So they know what they're doing. So it could change on a dime really quick.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, as we start to wind down, Scott, I do need to ask you, what do you think differentiates you, Wicked Bites, from other food review shows?
Well, really, because we like to bring the people into it. It's not about us. It's not about myself or Lee or Steve or Bianca. It's more about the people that work in the industry. We try to bring them and make them into friendly faces, and it's not about showing every food dish. You know, there are shows that show every food dish, and they do a fantastic job about that. But if I'm at an Italian restaurant, Paul, after about 3 dishes, I think you got it, right?
Hmm.
So it's all about finding the backstory, what makes them unique, and at the same time, entertaining the audience that's watching the TV show, because people that are watching TV, they want stuff fast. It's that instant feedback. Things in their world move fast. So we show a lot of the restaurant in a lot of quick clips. It's highly edited, but it's always fast paced. And we just want to keep, and I've been saying this from day one, I want to keep it fun.
Hmm.
That's my motto. Fun. Everything needs to be fun, and that's where our goal is, and that's what we strive to do. And that's why we brought in people like Steve D'Amato to bring a little levity to the show from time to time as well, just to have fun, because that's what the dining world is all about. And I think a lot of people like to see that as well.
Without a doubt. Without a doubt. Well, Scott, for our listeners in Paul Ponder's land, how do they reach out to you? How do they contact you and get in touch with you?
I think the best way to do it, you could always contact us through our website, which is wickedbites.tv. Not .com, it's .tv. So wickedbites.tv. You could also reach us out on our Facebook page, Wicked Bites TV on Facebook, or Wicked Bites on Instagram. We look at the messages. We're always looking for suggestions of places that we should feature on the television show. From time to time, I'll even post things saying, hey, I'm looking for the world's best chicken parmesan. Where do I go? And I'll get hundreds and hundreds of responses. We try to weave through those. So I always encourage folks to reach out to us. Tell us about some of their favorite places and what makes them unique. And you never know, they may pop up on the television show.
Wow. Well, Scott, I want to thank you for being on Paul Ponders, and we look forward to having you on again with more updates. How does that sound?
That sounds fantastic. And of course, they could always join me Sunday morning on the restaurant program. They could call in on WRKO in Boston, 680 a.m. from 10 to 12 noon.
Awesome. And also available on Nessun, right?
That's right. That's right. Nessun, the TV show. So we're all over the place, and all over social media. Just follow along with us and help us find these great restaurants throughout New England.
That's fabulous. Scott, thanks again.
Thanks for having me, Paul.
#indeed.
I trust that you have enjoyed #Paul Ponders. Again, my name is Paul Solano of PS&All Marketing Group, and I may be reached via email at paul@paulponders.com to do some more pondering. Many thanks to my longtime collaborative friend and associate, Chalonzo Amos of Pod Pro Entertainment, in bringing you our fun, exciting, and informative podcasts. You rock, Techie Chalonzo. With PS&All Marketing Group, I created a side gig to connect you and get things done. Please do not hesitate to reach out to me at paul@paulponders.com with any questions. Subscribe to our YouTube channel at Paul Ponders. Follow us on Twitter at Paul Ponders Pod. Follow us on Instagram at Paul Ponders Podcast. Thank you again for listening to #Paul Ponders, available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, our website, paulponders.com, or wherever you stream your podcasts. Subscribe, stream, rate, and review our shows. Your ratings and reviews help our show reach new audiences. Produced by Pod Pro Entertainment, #Paul Ponders lives within a network of podcasts located at podproentertainment.com. #the new radio. Until we meet again, my friend, stay well. #indeed.